What is going on, Governor? Chisgule here, and today we're going to answer a crucial question that many of you have been asking, which is, should I be investing in one of the new commanders that just hit Rise of Civilizations? If you like commander guides and strategies, you should totally like and subscribe, because we're going to cover that along with all of the sweet, sweet goodies that are contained within this latest update. And man, do I think this is one of the best updates that has ever hit Rise of Civilizations. We are a sponsored creator for Rise of Civilizations, and let's just get right into it. Should you be investing in one of these new commanders? Now, there are 4 commanders that are currently obtainable. They include Belisarius, Baras, Osman, and also Mehmed II, who, by the way, I opened 119 gold keys. We tried. We didn't get them. We got like multiple full unlocks of El Cid and like no Mehmed II. Whatever, it's cool. So, should you be investing in one of these commanders? I think is a really fascinating question. And the first thing I want to point out is that I've unlocked them, but their skill levels are really low right now. Like super low. Even with the first skill at 4. Super low. Should I be working on these commanders right now? No, I shouldn't. Why is that? Because I need to get their skills up higher before I can level them up. And until that's happened, don't touch them. One of the biggest mistakes you can make with a commander, and I have seen this happen a lot, is to level them up before you max out some of the most important skills. And on every single commander, the most important skill is the first skill. You must max this skill before you proceed further with leveling up that commander. Otherwise, you can get into a situation where that commander is not particularly optimal compared to where you could have had them. So with that said, the way that you might decide to invest in one of these commanders is if you have enough of the universal sculptures that you could really push their skills up a whole heck of a lot. Now, for perspective, it takes 440 of these sculptures in order to unlock the expertise skill. So that is a lot of sculptures. And if you're into the mid to late game, right, if you're already past City Hall 23, you're probably going to be better off with some other commander that already has their expertise skill until you have more time to work on one of these commanders. If you're in the early game, the calculus is totally different, and you might dive right into one of these commanders. Now, with that said, if you are going to pick one of these commanders to work on, we should just talk very briefly about which skills you need to max and the order in which you would max them if you are going to work on one of these commanders. Now, the first commander we need to talk about is Belisarius, who might be one of the commanders that you choose associated with a starting civilization. That's right, the civilization he comes with is actually like a fine choice as a starting civilization. So with that said, if you're working on this commander, you want to max the first skill before you take him to 2 stars. If your primary concern is not battling barbarians, but it's battling other players, you would then want to get this commander up into the 3-star range. Now, I'll tilt my head a little bit and say, like, are you sure you want to be using this commander for battling other players? Because while it is good, so much of what this commander is doing is geared toward battling barbarians. And I'm not saying he's not good against players. Certainly there's a place for him in the Mighty Governor event where you're just like running around killing farmers, and that's fine. However, if you're going to use this commander, max the first skill, level him up to the point where you can get this 3rd skill unlocked, then start applying your points, and then, and only then, would I proceed to unlock the 4th skill and rank that up. I like the damage bonus on the 4th skill, but it's not my priority. Now, if you got these skills to a decent place, you could take them to 4 stars, and that's fine, right? The real key here is that you max the first skill, and it's worth mentioning that with many of these skills, there's a huge benefit to maxing them out. For instance, this skill goes in the first upgrade from 5% to 10%, not very exciting. But the next upgrade is 10% to 17%, which is more points. And then 17 to 25, which is more points. And then 25 to 35. Now we're talking about a 10 percentage point gain per skill point that you put onto here. So the more you focus in on some of these, the better the results you're going to get with these commanders. And I can show you an example of me being insanely patient with Charles Martel. I am very close to thinking that he would be better to use for a number of things than a maxed out, expertise skilled epic commander. But because you get so much value on the last 2 points on this skill, I'm going to make sure that I max it out before I proceed to unlock all the way to the 4th skill. So, moving on to Baras. This is a very interesting commander, and if you were to be maxing out his skills, you've got to start by maxing out the first skill, which, by the way, area of effect, slow, and damage for cavalry? Yes. Do more of that. That is awesome. The next skill is a cavalry skill, and I like it. I would probably max this out before proceeding any further, and that is because the third skill is related to attacking player cities, which is not a priority for a lot of players in a lot of situations. And I think the calculus here really changes as a result of Alliance Battlegrounds. I think there is a much higher need for attacking player cities potentially. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit more in a bit, but I would max the first skill, max the second skill, from there, level up to 4 stars, and then apply more points. If you really are more concerned about attacking player cities than you are sort of getting the healing factor when you leave battle and getting march speed when you leave battle, which is totally understandable, you actually could go the route of maxing this third skill before you max out the 4th skill. So I would definitely max the first, max the second. If you care more about cities, max the third, then the 4th. This commander is actually kind of straightforward in that way. Otherwise, you can skip the 3rd, go right to the 4th. Baras, I think, has a profound role in Alliance Battlegrounds because he's good at hitting cities, and he's going to be good in the open field because he's got area of effect and march speed reduction, which is a really, really big deal. So I think this commander holds potentially a very strong role in Alliance Battlegrounds and is one that I personally will be looking very heavily at when I am ready to actually invest in one of these commanders fully. By the way, when I say when I am ready to invest in one of these commanders fully, I mean, look, I've got 4 other PvP viable epic commanders with their expertise skill. They're probably going to be better in most situations with the expertise skill unlocked compared to a 5/5/1/1 Baras. Just throwing it out there. So with that said, our next epic that we need to look at is Osman the First. And Osman is an interesting commander, very heavily focused on doing damage. First skill, a lot of skill damage. I would definitely max this before proceeding to the second skill, which this second skill I'm struggling with a little bit because I have a hard time understanding the scenario in which you'll be attacking a city for more than 30 seconds outside of when you're doing a rally. So I would actually skip to unlock the 3rd skill, and potentially, in fact, I would unlock the 4th skill, and then start applying points and hope that none of them land in Radiance of Bursa. That's what I would do. Now, to do that, what you want to do is level this commander up to 10, get the next star level them up to 20, and then you want to use a bunch of special stars to unlock both the 3rd skill and the 4th skill, and then you can use them as a secondary commander at like level 20, which is kind of cool. And you can still get their expertise skill, which is kind of awesome. So to review, max the first skill, level them to 20, use a bunch of the special stars. We're talking about probably 4 bundles and 2 blessed, or maybe 3 bundles and 3 blessed, and then try to unlock that 4th skill. And then you can use them as a secondary commander. Now, why am I advocating that you use this commander as a secondary commander? My assumption is that you've already been playing the game for a while and that you have other commanders that are already very high level. If that's the case, then this is a good commander to use as a secondary commander because you're going to have fewer talent points on them and their troop capacity is going to be lower because they're low level. It's going to take a while to get these guys high level, and I personally am probably not going to use a bunch of experience tomes on these epic commanders. I've got a lot of great epic commanders going already, and I farm Shrine Guardians to get that crucial experience. So, with that said, I think this is a cool commander. I would really take advantage of this technique to jump his star level up so that too many points don't fall into Radiance of Bursa. Now, the last commander we need to talk about is Mehmed II. Should you be investing in this commander? And I think he does some amazing things. Amazing things. Probably in Alliance Battlegrounds, and certainly outside of it in the open field. And there's a number of reasons why that's the case. The first skill does area of effect damage, and it gets bonus for hitting cities. Now look, I know that they just sent an in-game message that they're changing area of effect damage. It's still really good in open field. It's still really quite good. And while it's not as insane as it was, it's still so strong that yes, this first skill is amazing. Max it out before proceeding. Now we need to be extra careful because this is a legendary commander. So I get that many of us, myself included, have a little bit of a budget for how many of these legendary commander sculptures we actually can go and apply. So with that said, this second skill is amazing. It's amazing. If you can max this second skill before proceeding, I would highly recommend that you do that. If you can't, that's okay. Definitely max the first skill. Try to max the second. From there, this third skill is really good, as is the fourth skill. And, you know, this takes a lot of legendary sculptures to be working on this commander. So look, max the first, max the second, then take him to 4 stars, and I think you're in really great shape. If you wanted to really move with, I guess, what might be perfection, I still think I would go that route of doing the first skill, then the second skill maxed, and then jump it to 4 stars. Because I really think that the troop capacity and the rallied army capacity is a big, big deal, both in open field and in rallying cities, and I think that's amazing. Once you've unlocked this skill, like you get the 500 additional damage factor, that's good enough. It'll get a little bit bigger as you work its way up, but I think this commander will be in a really good position at that point. And the same technique that I mentioned earlier would work if you're using this commander as a secondary, and I think there's a lot of reasons to use this commander as a secondary. In my perfect world, you might be pairing with a commander like, say, Hannibal Barca, who does a defense reduction, and with the expertise skill, its area of effect, oh my goodness, insanity. But you also could be pairing with other commanders that you might have already had access to or to level up, including Yi Song-ye, including a commander like Sun Tzu, and you could bring full infantry. And let me just check myself, because I don't think he's got a specialty. Yeah, no. There's no troop specialty here. So you got a lot of flexibility with this commander. Take advantage of that. You could have some other commander be the primary. It could even require some certain type of unit, like an archer, infantry, cavalry. Doesn't matter. You're going to get a ton of damage. Pair with another commander that does huge skill damage, and you're in a really good place, and you can avoid spending a ton of experience tomes leveling this commander up by using that technique of using the special stars after you've leveled them up to 20, which I think would work really, really well on this commander. So overall, should you be using these commanders? And importantly, should you jump from your existing projects to one of these commanders? I think they're great, but I don't think you abandon your existing projects to work on these commanders. I am going to finish off my Cao Cao. I am going to finish off my Richard I before I start playing around with other legendary commanders, even to get their first skill to kind of a cool place, because unless you max the first skill and the second skill, I feel like in many cases, you might actually be better off with a maxed out epic commander that has the expertise skill in play. And those are so much easier for you to invest in. They take way less experience to level up, and the stars are way cheaper. Look, the epics are strong. The epics are strong, and so I'm going to stay focused on the projects I have, and we'll go from there. Overall, for Alliance Battlegrounds, I have to mention, and I said I would do this at the beginning, that I think attacking player cities is going to be more important. Because if you defeat a player city and you zero them, and I guess I could look at the updated rules to see if we can find information about that, they get teleported back to the starting area, and that seems like a really big deal. That seems like a really big deal. So let's see if we find the rules here. Maybe it's an other. Maybe it's an other. How do you get teleported back? Each alliance has a maximum of 20 teleport chances. They're shared across the alliance. Troops cannot be killed. War camps defeated by a siege will burn very rapidly. If the fire is not extinguished in time, your city may be sent back to the safe area. So I don't know what it takes to actually extinguish your city, if that just means you spend some gems or not. But attacking player cities could be a big deal because you don't have troops die. The thing that would have prohibited you from attacking troops is no longer in play. And I think that is why 2 of the new commanders have stuff that's about attacking cities. So for me, I think a short-term project, in the very near term, I will probably be looking at Baras. But guess what? You know who I'm going to finish off first? Our good friend, CPO Africanus. He's a whole heck of a lot closer. He's great for hitting cities. This will be my first project. I'm going to continue with it. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is on this one. So my friends, I hope this video has been helpful around talking about these new commanders and whether or not you should invest. I think they are very exciting, but I'm going to finish off my existing projects, and I think you probably should too, unless you're really hurting to have a diversity of commanders, or you are so into the early game that you have time on your side before Alliance Battlegrounds go live, and you need some diversity in your roster. If you found this video helpful, please do like and subscribe. We've got a ton of new stuff coming, including coverage of the new Alliance Battlegrounds. Oh yes, my friends. We will cover it, and we'll have all the strategy as soon as it's available. So I'm pumped about that. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.